What's happening, people? Hatman Strikes Back Daily Boxing News. We're back for another live stream. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We got some boxing topics to cover. A couple of months back, this was the Ring Magazine on Instagram. Obviously, Ring Magazine owned by Turki Usyk. Breaking. Turki Usyk announces in partnership with DAZN that there will be no more pay-per-view pricing for all Riyadh season and Ring events, starting with the Ring 4 on November 22nd. All events will be available for free for all DAZN subscribers. Well, not quite for free, but, part of the DAZN subscription cost. So that was a few months ago. Turki Usyk even did several interviews saying that he wanted to scrap pay-per-view for Ring Magazine and Riyadh season events. He said that too many pay-per-views or pay-per-views in general were bad for boxing. And he'd been pushing for the elimination of pay-per-view with DAZN for quite a while. This is what Turki Usyk said. But bear in mind, Turki Usyk or the Saudis do own a stake in DAZN, but it's a relatively small stake. I think it's something like 15%. And it doesn't matter how powerful you are in the world, governing your nation or in the world of geopolitics. When it comes to business, if you don't have a majority stake in the company, you're not going to have the final say in a lot of cases, right? Unless that company is based in the country that you're part of the government of, which is not the case here, obviously. DAZN is a UK-based company, and obviously Turki Usyk, so on and so on, are from Saudi Arabia. So anyway, we heard this. We were all very, to some extent, happy about it, but kind of skeptical at the same time, wondering whether they would bump up the monthly price of DAZN to such an extent that it would be not really any cheaper than paying for all the pay-per-views, right? But there was still the possibility that that wouldn't happen, and as I say, there would be better value coming to DAZN in the not-too-distant future. And then we get this. Just the other day, this hasn't yet been confirmed by DAZN as far as I'm aware. This is on X, Everything Boxing. They're reporting that the November 22nd card, David Benavidez, Anthony Yard headlining, will be a DAZN pay-per-view. They say it's now available to purchase for $24.99 in the UK and $59.99 in the US. It was previously announced that the Ring events would no longer be pay-per-view starting with this one. And you also may remember that maybe last year, Turki Usyk said that he wanted the pay-per-view prices to be no more than about £10. I've got no reason to doubt that Turki Usyk has been fighting for the things that he says he's been fighting for, such as lower pay-per-view prices or scrapping pay-per-view altogether. But getting Len Blavatnik and the bigwigs, the other bigwigs below Blavatnik at DAZN to agree to all this is easier said than done. And so, at this stage anyway, I don't want to say that it was Turki leading boxing fans astray by saying stuff that he didn't believe. I think he genuinely has been trying to get pay-per-view prices down or eliminate pay-per-view for Riyadh season and Ring Magazine cards. But as I say, only a minority stake in the country. I can't imagine that he's got the final say. And I would suspect he's been overruled. And that is why we're seeing this reversal, where apparently, ostensibly, this card will be pay-per-view after all. What do you guys, I know what you guys feel about it, but I still want to get your feedback. How do you guys think, or what do you guys think about this in the live chat? First of all, big up Matt for the super chat. It says $55 billion from EA, baby. So the Saudis have bought EA, right? Is that what Matt is alluding to there? I think I read that somewhere. Big up Adam. Alex says it keeps cutting in and out, lagging. Try refreshing the stream and see if it helps. Try refreshing the stream. because people said this on previous streams and they were able to remedy it that way. Big up Nathan. He says he's currently in Vietnam. Kira Malcolm says it's not lagging. Ocean Blue says, I'll be looking for a decent link in November then. Encircled says I'm having no issues at all. Who knows about this Turkey Al Sheikh, or not Turkey Al Sheikh, but Saudi EA thing? They bought EA for $55 billion or 55 million. 55 billion sounds crazy. Yes, big up Trent. Kira Malcolm says, get a Fire Stick, problem solved. Big up Matt for the super chat. He says, on the return, or the return is so atrocious, they have to keep pay-per-view. I suspect Riyadh won't be present post-2026. Yeah, it's possible. Because they appear to be tightening the purse strings. They appear not to be splashing as much money as they were when they initially entered the market. And that tends to be the way. When PBC first entered the boxing market, they were splashing crazy amounts of money around, but they tightened those purse strings. Same when Matchroom and DAZN first entered the boxing market. They were splashing all kinds of money on fighters and crazy purses, but those purse strings got tightened. And it appears to be the same with the Saudis. But if the Saudis aren't getting what they want out of boxing, or maybe they feel like they've got what they want out of boxing already, one or the other, then they might walk away in the not too distant future. It's very possible. Especially if DAZN don't really align with their vision for what they want to do with boxing. Either they walk away, or this will be the ideal scenario, they do some type of deal with Netflix instead. Because I'm tired of DAZN. But Matt thinks that Riyadh, the Saudis, will not be present in boxing post-2026. So I guess from 2027 on. Wow. Rich Franklin says, yeah, it's Billy, not Millie. EA for $55 billion? That's mad. I mean, obviously, EA is a massive company with all the sports games they do, Madden and FIFA. They also do Battlefield and countless other games. But yeah, I never realized that they were worth that much. $55 billion. Insane. Oh, wow. Meow Meow says Microsoft bought Activision for $68 billion. Gaming is even bigger than I thought it was, and I knew it was huge. Okay, Afro Jam says the stream might be an issue if you're using it on a phone. Last time mine bugged. This time it's okay for me. So I guess people are having a better experience if they're watching on a computer or something. Okay, Rem says DAZN are introducing a Ring Pass where you get to pay an extra subscription on top of the DAZN sub to get pay-per-views per month. It's pathetic. How much are they charging? Have they officially announced this? Ryan Emus says, ironic how DAZN was supposed to end pay-per-view, yet they are now pay-per-view. And not just pay-per-view, they're spamming pay-per-views like no other broadcaster that I can remember. I mean, a few years ago, PBC was spamming. I mean, they're still doing loads of pay-per-view. I say loads. Pretty much all PBC events are pay-per-view now. But when they still had their Fox and Showtime deals, they were spamming pay-per-view for a hot minute as well. But I want to say DAZN have surpassed them in terms of spamming pay-per-views. MT says no price yet, I don't think. There you go. That's why EA are making so much money. Microtransactions. Afro Jam says pay-per-view can't die on DAZN. Big up James Wood. He says, listening to your stream the other day about being shadow banned, think that's just happened to me on Facebook. Lost my work page, 7 years of work, 50 plus 5-star reviews, all gone. Damn. Plug your business right now. Plug your business now in the live chat. Anybody from the Sheffield area? Need a kitchen fitted? Holler at James Wood. He's the Oleksandr Usyk of kitchen fitters. Sheffield area. Big up J.I. says, Hatman, you need to watch a documentary called Moment of Contact about a possible alien encounter in Brazil in 1996. Compelling viewing, and I'm fully invested after watching. Okay. Moment of Contact. Let me type that in now. I got my post-stream viewing sorted. Let me get it up here. Moment of Contact. Oh, damn. This one you got free with ads. All right. I thought you had to pay for it for a second. Okay. Hour and 47 minutes long. So what is this, like a reenactment? So it's a movie reenacting something real, or is it a documentary? Because it's or is it a documentary that's got like little acted bits in it? Is that what it is? I guess that's what it is. All right. I'll check that out after the stream. By James Fox. Okay. Mercelot says, stream fine now after leaving and coming back. Yeah, a lot of people find that. Rem says, DAZN a few years ago said that they would be profitable in 2024, but they are still losing hundreds of millions each year. Yeah, I heard Eddie Hearn he didn't really address it head on, but he danced around it a little bit and addressed it in a roundabout way. And he did make a valid point regarding some of these giant companies and corporations. They're willing to lose enormous amounts of money to corner the market or break into certain markets. And that can last for a lot of years. I mean, Uber, for example, were losing loads of money. Look at the history of Uber. They were losing enormous amounts of money for several years when they first started. But of course, what they were doing is basically, is it right to say undercutting the competition of private cab companies and black cabs in London and stuff like that? So that is what gives them the advantage, that they've got so much money to waste. It's not really a waste, but you know what I mean. They've got so much money that they can hemorrhage money for years and years just to blow the competition out of the water before they start making a profit. Even Google in various territories are absolutely hemorrhaging money. But once they're established and once they blow the local competition out of the water, then they start making huge profits. So you could say or make the same argument for DAZN, you know? Deep Random Thinker says, how devastated would it be if Usyk were to lose now? It would be a shame, because he has an opportunity to walk away at the top with his legacy secure. If he gets too greedy with trying to achieve more and do more and beat more people at his age, he's 38, 39 in January. If he gets too greedy, his legacy could be tarnished. And people won't be able to make as strong a case for him being a top 10, top 5 heavyweight of all time. Do you know what I mean? So I hope he walks away. Big up Mr. Luca. He says, is Usyk about to become Harvey Two-Face? I hope not. In fact, let's get on to that. So, Oleksandr Usyk says he will not fight Moses Itauma, at least not next or in the near future. So this is a headline from Oleksandr Usyk's own website. So no better source for Oleksandr Usyk interviews, quotes, whatever, Oleksandr Usyk information than either his YouTube channel or his own website. The headline reads, Usyk reveals when he plans to return, and says Itauma won't be his opponent. Three-time undisputed world champion Oleksandr Usyk has revealed when he expects to return to the ring. He said, I arrived yesterday morning. I was at training camp. They asked him, are you training to prepare for a fight? If so, when? He said, next year, and God willing, I'll win. Against whom? I'd like to make something up for you right now. Itauma? No, I won't fight Itauma. He's young, always teasing me, and he said himself he doesn't hit grandpas. I can't say who exactly because negotiations are ongoing. I'd be lying if I gave you a name. So you'll continue your career for at least another year? I'll fight until I'm 41. Then I'll build a sports academy. I'll train there and train others, Usyk added. Okay, so the first thing to state here is that he's not saying that he won't fight Itauma ever. He's saying he's not going to fight Itauma next. And obviously, anyone who's reasonable is not going to have any issue with that. Because Moses Itauma is still a prospect. He's 13-0. He hasn't beaten anyone relevant in the heavyweight division. He beat a totally washed up Dylan White in his last outing, which is perfectly fine for this stage of his career. But what is kind of throwing people off is individuals who are saying he can beat Itauma. I mean, look, Itauma was asked whether he thought he could beat Usyk right now. He was asked that question, and he said yes. I've got no issue with that answer. It's not like he's coming out calling Usyk out. No, he's not doing any of that. He was asked, if you were to fight Usyk right now, what would happen? And he said, I would back myself. That's what I want to hear from a young prospect. When Mike Tyson, early on in his career, was asked whether he thought he could beat Larry Holmes, he said words to that effect, that he reckons he could. But then he went on to say, when my team think I'm ready, then I'm ready. But I'd fight anyone right now. Okay? And that's when Mike Tyson was nowhere near ready for challenging for the title. So, Itauma, similar thing. He says he thinks he'd beat Usyk right now. He thinks he's got a better skill set. I want to hear that. It may not be true, but I want to hear that type of confidence from him. But the fact that maybe fans, his promoter, and others are putting him up there with the best heavyweights in the world right now is causing people to want him to go in with the Usyk right now. I mean, some of Itauma's fans might think he can win that fight next. I definitely don't. I think it's far too early for him. Another thing that's throwing people off is Itauma's rankings. Now, interestingly enough, he was asked by the IBF to partake in a final eliminator against Frank Sanchez, which he turned down. I may be wrong here, but I think Itauma was ranked more highly than number 11 with the IBF prior to turning that fight down. If that's the case, then it's appropriate for them to drop him down the rankings for for refusing to go ahead with that final eliminator. But then they also should have done the same with Richard Torres because he turned down the Frank Sanchez fight too. And there was somebody else that turned it down as well. I'm not sure why Derek Chisora is still at number 2. Why isn't he fighting Frank Sanchez? But that's an aside. So Itauma's ranking with the IBF at number 11 is okay. It might even be slightly high still, but it's okay. Him being number 1 with the WBA is ridiculous. Number 4 with the WBC is very generous. Number 1 with the WBO is ridiculous. Okay? Be that as it may, I do not expect Moses Itauma, and I'll come on to this in a second, to be fighting legit top 5, top 10 heavyweights right now. I don't think we need to be expecting him to be in there with the elite. There's no issue with him, let's say, fighting a Kubrat Pulev next or somebody like that. I mean, Kubrat Pulev technically is top 10, but, he's got the regular WBA belt. We'll come on to that. But getting back to Oleksandr Usyk, there's no reason for him to be fighting Moses Itauma in his next fight. There are other fighters who have earned their shots and are waiting in the wings. The likes of Joseph Parker. He's obviously going up against Fabio Wardley, treading water while waiting for his shot. And Ajit Kabayel. It would be a travesty. It would be a black eye for boxing if Moses Itauma got a title shot before the likes of Joseph Parker and Ajit Kabayel. So for Usyk to come out and say he's not going to fight Itauma next, he shouldn't be fighting Itauma next. So that's what I want to hear from Oleksandr Usyk. So, again, he didn't say he would never fight Itauma. He said he wouldn't fight him next. Or he has no plans to fight him next. But he is negotiating with someone. That's the interesting thing. It's also the troubling thing. Because Joseph Parker is fighting Fabio Wardley. Would he be in negotiations to fight Usyk in the run-up to a fight with Fabio Wardley in a couple of weeks? Or just over a week, whenever it is? Would his team be negotiating with Usyk now? Because if Fabio Wardley beats him, then the Usyk fight is gone. Similar thing with Ajit Kabayel. Is he the one negotiating with Oleksandr Usyk? Because from what I hear, they're lining up Ajit Kabayel to have a German homecoming before the end of the year. I can't say it's not one of those guys that's negotiating with Usyk right now. But if it isn't, who is it? And you know, the worst scenario would be if it's Luke Partridge again. I would be disappointed in Oleksandr Usyk more than anyone else if a Luke Partridge trilogy fight happens. Maybe Usyk is under contract with the Saudis. Maybe because of the commercial aspects, they're trying to steer him towards a Partridge trilogy. Could it be that? If it's not that, then like I say, the blame would lie squarely at Usyk's feet. It would be inexcusable to fight Partridge for a third time when you've got the likes of Ajit Kabayel and Joseph Parker have earned their shots and they're waiting in the wings. Let's all pray collectively as a boxing community that it's not Luke Partridge 3 that is being negotiated behind the scenes for Oleksandr Usyk's next fight. What say you in the comments? And big up Mr. Luca. Again, we'll hope that Usyk isn't about to become Harvey Two-Face. As in, you either retire a legend or retire a hero or fight on long enough to see yourself become a villain. Big up Matt for the super chat. He says, I'm at hospital. I was in the shower and collapsed in the worst pain of my life. Couldn't move. Turned out to be a kidney stone. Rough, man. Damn. Hope you're okay, Matt. I don't know much about kidney stones. Anybody in the, maybe Matt, you can enlighten me about kidney stones. I mean, I know what they are roughly, but how you get them? Is it because you're consuming too much of a certain type of food and that mineral deposits build up in the kidneys? Is it something that some people are genetically more predisposed to, getting kidney stones? I pray you make a full recovery from that. I'll big up Matt again. He says, I don't trust UK genetics with chins anymore. Then Circle says, as a UK diehard, I'd be annoyed. Matt says, calcium overload. Okay. Too much calcium. Deep Random Thinker says, don't mind a stay busy fight with Wilder. So only guy who fought the top guys in his era. I would be totally against the stay busy fight against Wilder. Wilder's not even ranked in the top 10. He's totally washed. I would not want to see Usyk fight Wilder at all. The Wilder fight, I'm generalizing here. I'm not saying everybody who would want to see that fight fits into this category. But for the most part, the Wilder fight would just appease PBC fans. And I don't give a damn about PBC fans. They're like a cult. Afro Jam says the hard water in the south of England is bad for you. When I was living in the UK, I only ever had bottled water. I didn't mess with tap water like that. Okay, XIV says, nah, Usyk needs to be retired by Moses. That's the right way to go out. The young lion defeating the old seasoned lion. All right. This is Sparta. That's your philosophy, right? Judging by what you're saying there, this is Sparta. Oliver says, why should he fight Itauma? Boxing fans are greedy, man. The guy has fought everyone more than you could reasonably expect any fighter to take on. Well, I wouldn't go as far as saying that. I would say, well, I would agree with you, but I'll put a caveat on it. Usyk hasn't fought everyone, but he's fought everyone. He's fought the main guys. And because of being tied into rematches and his age as well, he hasn't been able to go on a heavyweight run comparable to Mike Tyson in the 80s, Lennox Lewis in the 90s, Muhammad Ali in the 60s, 70s, Joe Louis before him, Rocky Marciano. He hasn't been able to go on that kind of run and beaten that. Well, Rocky Marciano didn't actually have that many world title fights, but the other guys I mentioned had a lot. Evander Holyfield, Larry Holmes. Usyk hasn't been able to beat that many opponents in world championship fights at heavyweight because of all the rematches and because of his age. He was undisputed at a weight class below prior to that. So, yeah, we can't expect much more from him, or any more from him is what I would argue. The man's 39 in January. Like somebody said a little earlier on in the chat, boxing fans can get greedy. It starts to get like the Colosseum in ancient Rome, They want to throw that gladiator back in the arena time and time again until he eventually gets slain. I don't want to see that. If Usyk was 32, then I'd say, yeah, let's see him go on a run. But he's nearly 39. So I don't think it's reasonable, personally. BK Knuckles says, or B Knuckles says, Itauma obviously passes the eye test, but he's fought straight cans. Dylan White is unbelievably shot. I don't know how he even got a license to fight right now. Can't expect more from Usyk. I agree. Big up Matt for the super chat. He says, when I watch UK boxing commentary, it's so much different than the USA. UK boxing pundits sensationalize fighters much more. Incredible, the GOAT, etc. I don't think UK, from, I've been watching UK boxing and listening to UK commentators for decades. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that they sensationalize more than American commentators, depending on the channel and depending on which commentators they're, because Jim Lampley used to sensationalize a lot with Manny Pacquiao and stuff like that. What I would say though, Matt, is that for the most part, UK commentators are a lot more biased in favor of UK fighters than American commentators are in favor of American fighters. In general, I would say that's the case. I'm not talking about the journalists that write for the magazines or the analysts who are in the studio after the fight is done. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the commentators calling the fights live at the time. UK commentators are more overtly patriotic, pulling for the British guy more so than American commentators who are not so overtly patriotic with the fighters. They used to be back in the days, But these days, no, American commentators are a bit more neutral than UK commentators. I would say that. Big up, Matt. Matt also says, not as bad as Max Kellerman, though. But if Itauma knocked out a 44-year-old Pulev, people will call him the future. Got to show me more. Now, I agree. We'll come on to Moses Itauma in a second. Big up Fight News. ATL in the house. Oliver C says, I agree, Hatman. What he's accomplished, he deserves to go out on his terms. Like Proximo from Gladiator. Give that man Rubius and let him go free. He's done enough. Big up Adam Fawkes with a super chat. He says, Prime Hunter versus Opataya. That's an amazing fight. That is an amazing fight. Prime Hunter versus Opataya. That is an amazing fight. I'm going to slightly edge towards a Prime Hunter, you know. I'm saying a Prime Hunter nicks it on the cards against Opataya. But that's an amazing fight. You guys come up with some great matchups, seriously. Matchups which I would never have thought of. So, let's move on to Moses Itauma here. So, there's been a lot of criticism of Itauma in the wake of the possibility. It's not like the fight is signed. It's possible that Itauma fights Kubrat Pulev next because Pulev has been ordered to face Itauma as a mandatory challenger. So it isn't necessarily Itauma picking Pulev, although behind the scenes it could be. Ostensibly, it's the WBA ordering Pulev to fight this guy. And so I'm seeing loads of comments, even on my videos, of people saying this is a joke. If Itauma's the next big thing, why on earth is he fighting a 44-year-old Kubrat Pulev? He's a hype job. If he was the real deal, he'd be fighting legit top 10 guys now, not Kubrat Pulev, who somehow managed to get hold of a WBA regular belt against Manuel Char. They basically think this is an indication that Itauma is no substance, basically. It's all hot air. It's all hype. I did a video about this previously, but I'm going to reiterate what I said in that video. Itauma's 13-0. Kubrat Pulev, historically speaking, if you go back and look at the opposition that great heavyweights of the past were facing, Usyk excluded, but most great heavyweights of the past were facing in their 14th fight, I'm telling you now, they weren't fighting anyone better than Kubrat Pulev, most of them, including the heavyweight who Itauma gets associated with the most, Mike Tyson. Obviously, Itauma's style is nothing like Mike Tyson, but because of the fact he's pretty much like a child prodigy, that's where you can make a comparison. This is Mike Tyson's 14th pro fight. You guys see it on screen here? This is from Mike Tyson's BoxRec page. You can count the fights up from the bottom. Hector Mercedes was his pro debut. His 14th fight, which would be the equivalent of Itauma's next fight, if he's fighting Pulev. Mike Tyson, baddest man on the planet, his 14th fight was against a guy called Sammy Scaff. A random, obscure redneck from Kentucky. This is the guy. His alias was Slammin' Sammy Scaff. Now, any, can I call you Mike Tyson aficionados? You will have seen this fight a million times over. It's a very short fight between Mike Tyson and Sammy Scaff. Sammy Scaff, absolutely useless. Some random redneck. Yeah, he did have a little bit of an amateur career, but he was no great shakes at all. That is who Mike Tyson fought in his 14th fight. There's the matchup on BoxRec. Not only was Sammy Scaff not a good fighter, but he was also in bad form, coming off back-to-back defeats to Proud Kilimanjaro and Tim Witherspoon. So here we have an obscure redneck journeyman coming off back-to-back defeats being put in there against Mike Tyson in his 14th pro bout. Folks, Kubrat Pulev is better than Sammy Scaff, even at 44 years of age. Yes, he is. So on one hand, people can't be saying that Itauma's a fraud. If he fights Pulev in his 14th fight, he can't be the next Mike Tyson. He can't be the next big thing. You can't be saying that in one breath. When at the same time, you're saying Mike Tyson was the real deal. Mike Tyson was fighting people worse than Pulev in his 14th fight. Make it make sense. So I understand people don't like crowns being put on fighters' heads before they've earned them. God knows I don't like that, because that's what was happening with Luke Partridge for the longest time, a.k.a. Tyson Fury. They were crowning him the best heavyweight of his generation. And some people even going as far as saying the best heavyweight of all time. He hadn't even beaten Usyk. He hadn't become undisputed. He hadn't fought Anthony Joshua. Don't give people the crown before they've earned it. I understand that frustration, okay? But on this channel, my motto has always been, no fighter is below praise and no fighter is below praise, no fighter is above criticism. I like to be reasonable. As much as I can say, yes, Itauma doesn't deserve the ranking he's got. Hell no, he doesn't deserve to be number one with any sanctioning body. But at the same time, to be expecting him to fight top 5 opposition or legit top 10 opposition in his 14th bout, and if he doesn't, he's a hype job, that's unreasonable. When you compare him to, again, Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson wasn't fighting anyone as good as Pulev in his 14th fight. I've just showed you that. Big up Matt for the super chat. He says, was Mike Tyson more known in his 14th fight than Itauma is in his? It's difficult to say, because obviously there was no social media back then. But at the same time, because there were so few channels and there was so few there's no social media, network television was able to get huge numbers, huge viewing figures. And this is why, for example, Michael Jackson was a bigger star than any music artist out today, despite the fact that there was no social media back then and there were so few channels. Mike Tyson was enormous. Why? Because people were all watching the same channels. And if all those same channels were constantly playing Michael Jackson, then there was no escape. You were going to hear Michael Jackson whether you liked it or not. You see what I'm saying? Whereas now, because there are so many channels, there's so much social media, there are people that are making loads of money as music artists, but I've got no idea who they are, right? Depending on the genre. Similar situation in the world of sports, yeah? Because there were so few channels back then and no social media, everybody knew Michael Jordan. And Mike Tyson on the way up, I can't say whether he was as known as Itauma or not. Maybe he was more well-known because he was coming up in the United States, which is a much bigger country than the UK. But then again, a lot of people know Itauma. It's hard to measure it. What I can tell you is that Mike Tyson on the way up was getting an enormous amount of hype as far as being compared to great fighters of the past. Before he'd earned the right to be called better than Joe Frazier or better than George Foreman or better than Rocky Marciano, right away, you can go back and listen to the commentary of some of Mike Tyson's early fights, and they were saying this guy's better than Joe Frazier. Now, I would agree that looking back, yes, Mike Tyson was better than Joe Frazier, but he hadn't proved that he was at that level when they were making those proclamations about him. Yeah? Saying he was better than Joe Frazier and better than Marciano and better than a bigger puncher than George Foreman. He hadn't proved it at that stage, but they were still doing it. So they were hyping him up to high heaven. No doubt about it. Hyping him up to high heaven. Big up Matt for the super chat. Big up Grizz D for the super chat. He says, big up Hatman, I'm 20 minutes behind on the stream. I'm a black cabbie. Please use us, not Uber. Big up Grizz D. Big up the black cabbies. And I would support them. But it is a difficult game to be in, isn't it? Given the fact that Uber undercuts the black cabbies, and there are far more Ubers about than black cabs. But big up Grizz D. Black cabbies always used to have to do the knowledge. That's before the days of sat-nav. I guess now the knowledge is a thing of the past. Big up Rich Franklin. Combat Sports says Bill Caton created the whole Mike Tyson mainstream persona. He was a financial architect of Tyson's empire. Bill Caton and Jimmy Jacobs were business partners. And Cus D'Amato basically put Mike Tyson in their hands, and they were the ones who guided his career. Big up 3D Paul for the super chat. No message on that one, just a super chat. Much appreciated, sir. Sam O'Donoghue says, I'm part of the fake taxi crew. So we got an Uber driver in the place. No beef between you guys, please. Let's keep it peaceful between Grizz D and Sam. All right, we don't want any Uber driver versus black cabbie beef going on here. Big up Rich Franklin. Yeah, let's hit the like button, people. We got 222 concurrent viewers, only 77 likes. Let's smash that like button like it was Keir Starmer's face. Imagine that like button is Keir Starmer's face. Now let's see how you really feel about this live stream. Imagine the like button is Keir Starmer's face. Smash it to bits. Keir Starmer's face, or even Sadiq Khan's face. Huh? How about that? Treat that like button like Sadiq Khan or Keir Starmer's face. Smash it to bits. Mark Hatch says Black Cabbie versus Uber driver, the DAZN pay-per-view. You know what? The way the DAZN is going, they might even put something like that on pay-per-view. Taking the absolute biscuit. Ocean Blue says be putting combinations on it. There you go. Or Klaus Schwab, yes. Imagine it's Klaus Schwab's face. Smash that like button like Klaus Schwab's face. Make up Martin Ryan. He says, I'm pounding that like button. Yeah, big up Fight News. Tony S says, if you were managing Itauma, who would you put him in with next? See, the thing with Warren is that he's trying to build Itauma into a star as well as progress him in his career, which is why I think the Pulev fight is appealing to him. But the Pulev fight really helps to build his profile more than it helps his progression, because I think he blows Pulev out in a couple of rounds. Again, it's not an unreasonable fight to have for your 14th, but a better fight, I think, would be Guido Vianello. That's an opponent that somebody in my Element group suggested the other day. I think it was Tarry. Big up Tarry for suggesting Vianello. I think Vianello is a real good shout because he's tough, he's game, he comes to fight, he gives it a go, but he's not a massive puncher. So if I'm guiding Itauma's career, if I'm his manager or whatever, I'm looking for a guy like that. If I can't get Hrgovic would be ideal. If I can't get Hrgovic, I'm putting him in there against the Vianello. If he can take Vianello out, that's a statement, because Efe Ajagba, who's a massive puncher, couldn't take him out. Obviously, Vianello knocked out or stopped. God, what's the guy called now? Why have I drawn a blank? The guy that Dave Allen just lost to, Makhmudov, excuse me. Vianello stopped Makhmudov, and Vianello also went a distance with Richard Torres recently. And in his last fight, he got a win over an undefeated Canadian. No great shakes, but still. So Vianello's still got ambition. He's brave, he's tough, he takes a shot. Has he ever been down in a fight? I'm not sure he's ever been down. He has been stopped, but that was on cuts to Jonathan Rice. He didn't get knocked out or anything. So, yeah, for his 14th fight, I'd put Itauma in against Vianello next. If they can get that fight, I think that would be ideal. That's another good shout, actually. Big up Devin. He says, I'll put Itauma in with a guy who just fought Jalalov. I think that's a real good shout. That's a real good shout. That guy was no cupcake who just fought Jalalov. Despite not having an impressive professional record, he actually had an extensive amateur background. The guy that just fought Vianello. Excuse me, not Vianello. The guy that just fought Jalalov. Correcting myself, yeah. The guy had an extensive amateur background and fought at a high level. He actually fought Jayo Patara in the amateurs, the guy that Jalalov just fought. And he's obviously got plenty of ambition because he was sticking it on Jalalov. So yeah, that's a good shout against the Itauma. Stick him in with that guy. Mark Hatch says Vianello was a slight underdog in that last fight, won some easy money. Yeah, the matchroom fighter from Canada, he didn't look very good, did he? The Southpaw, trained by, is he trained by Sugar Hill? That's another good shout, Tony. Yes, yeah, the guy who beat Kuzman. Either of those would be better than Pulev at this point in terms of giving Itauma rounds and giving him a little bit of a challenge to bring him on. Yeah, that's another good shout, Tony. Big up, Tony. Yeah, the guy who beat Kuzman or the guy that Jalalov just fought. Those are both good suggestions. Yeah, Jermaine Franklin will be a good one as well. Although I don't think he'd put up as much offense as the two guys just mentioned. Stella says, Opatai versus Itauma at heavyweight is possible. It is, but I don't think that'll be happening for a couple years, to be honest. JR says, who would be the last man standing in a world leader Royal Rumble, do you reckon? Where's Matt? What does Matt think? I'd like to hear Matt's take on this. Matt Borgerson, who do you think would be the last man standing in a world leader Royal Rumble? I reckon it might be Ibrahim Traore. I reckon Ibrahim Traore, because he's a soldier, he's young, he's in shape, he wears like combat gloves. Does he wear MMA gloves? It looks like he wears no, it's some kind of combat gloves he wears, isn't it? With the hard knuckles. I reckon Ibrahim Traore might win in a world leader Royal Rumble. Someone says Putin's too old. You reckon Putin can beat Traore in a fight? How old's Traore? Is he like 30? He's young. He might be the youngest world leader around at the moment. Big up Liam Goff, a.k.a. G-Man in the chat. Oliver C says, Hatman, battle of the crazy eyes, Usyk or Jai Opetaia, who looks crazier? For me, Opetaia looks by far the more disturbed. Usyk has got crazy eyes, but they're kind of like mischievous, playful, joker crazy eyes. Like he's a prankster, a joker, he's funny, and you know what I mean? There's humanity in his eyes. Jai Opetaia's got psycho eyes, bro. Jai Opetaia's got the kind of eyes. He's got the kind of eyes which are disturbing. Yeah. He's got the kind of eyes whereby if he couldn't fight, at least well enough to be a world champion boxer, then surely he'd be headed straight for prison. That's what his eyes tell me. If he weren't a world champion boxer, those eyes tell me he'd be in prison. Probably for a long time. That's the kind of eyes Jai Opetaia's got, bro. Thank God professional boxing exists. That's all I can tell you when it comes to Jai Opetaia. Thank God professional boxing exists. Matt says, Egyptian president. Okay, I'll have to look him up. Is he old? You reckon he would win the world leader Royal Rumble? Okay, I'll have to look him up. Yes, that's exactly how Oppenheimer looks at everyone. You could greet, hi, how you doing, mate? Good day. You could say something cheerful to Oppenheimer, and he would look at you, as Devin has said there, the way that Tony Montana looked at Manolo, his best friend in Scarface, when he found out he was sleeping with his sister. That's exactly how Oppenheimer looks at everyone. I've got no idea what that's all about, bro. I got no idea what that's all about. Why Oppenheimer looks so hostile? It's as if Oppenheimer has been born in the wrong era. You know, he would have been leading the charge. Like when the Maori were fighting the Europeans, when the Europeans invaded and colonized New Zealand, and the Maori were doing the hackers and with all the tattoos on their face and charging into battle with their tongues hanging out, all that kind of stuff. Oppenheimer would have been at the forefront of the charge. That's Oppenheimer, bro. Has Oppenheimer ever done the hacker for any of his fights? Be a scary hacker. Tony S says, has anyone heard of up-and-coming heavyweight in America called Damazion Van Houston? What a name. Damazion, is that how you pronounce it? Damazion Van Houston. I haven't. I haven't heard of him. Is he any good? Tell me about him. Enlighten us. Anyone else in the chat heard of him? Damazion Van Houston. Some of these American names are crazy. Especially black American names. Some of them are crazy, bro. Yep, as Sam Donahue said there, Oppenheimer would have been coordinating the hacker. Cash says, I'm sorry, but the hacker is so cringe. I don't think it's cringe. I like it. When rugby union was popular back in the days, New Zealand would play England and all that, and those Pacific Islanders would do the hacker, I get chills, bro, like, because it would cast my mind, my imagination to the battlefields of old when they were literally about to go in there and gouge someone's eyes out in combat. You know what I mean? So no, I don't think the hacker's cringe for me personally. I like that they've still got that cultural thing going. Mark Hatch says, I agree, it's too overdone now. All right, fair enough. People got different views, but personally, I like it. Oh, Van Hooter. That's even more weird than Van Houston. Van Hooter? Hooters is in like boobs? So let me get his name here. This sounds crazy. Damazion Van Hooter. Bro, man's got a crazy name. I'm not sure how successful you can be with that name. Or Van Houten, excuse me. No, Rem said it's Van Hooter, but then somebody's saying it's Van Houten. Van Houten's okay. Van Hooter is crazy. Okay, I'll check him out. Let me type that in to my YouTube search box right now for my post-stream viewing. Damazion Van Hooter or Houten. like, like seriously, I've had to pull up Nigerians for giving their kids ridiculous names. Delicious Ori being an example. Stop it. But we got to have the same conversation with Black Americans now. Like these crazy names have got to stop, bro. They've got to stop. They've got to stop. Yeah, it sounds Dutch. Whenever there's something Van on it, it sounds Dutch, yes. Damazion. What kind of name is that? Van. Let's see if it's Van Hooter or Hooten. I'm looking it up now. Yes, Van Hooter. Okay. Damazion Van Hooter. I'll check him out. 20-year-old American heavyweight prospect with real promise. All right. Okay. I'll look him up and tell you what I think after the stream. I'll just get his box rec up here. That was Zion Van Hooter. Just bear with me, folks. Just getting the box rec up so I don't forget it. In his box rec picture, he looks like a woman. What kind of name is he from Cape Verde? Is he Cape Verdean, this guy, in terms of his background? He looks like he could be Cape Verdean. Hang on, am I looking at the wrong person? No, I'm looking at the right person. Whoa! Whoa! Oh my God. This guy turned pro in 2022, 3 years ago. Guess what weight he was in 2022? Guess what weight this guy was in 2022? Okay, he was 17. Bro, he was a light middleweight in 2022. He was 154 in 2022. That's crazy. Man was a light middleweight 3 years ago. Now he's a heavyweight. I mean, I guess maybe if you grew that fast between the ages of 17 and 20, but that's still kind of bizarre, right? The place says, is it just me or is the stream breaking up? Try refreshing the stream if you find it's breaking up. Try refreshing it because people earlier on were saying it was breaking up. And once they refreshed it, it solved all the issues. So try refreshing it and let me know if it improves. Try refreshing the stream. Rem says he's a very small heavyweight who had a growth spurt. Well, a light middleweight who had a growth spurt and ended up as a heavyweight in 3 years. I'm not sure I've ever seen anything like that before. Shola says choppy. Yep. Try refreshing the stream, see if it improves. Other people said it did. Try refreshing. Okay, people are saying it's mad choppy. Big up Black Incel. So what I will do is I will re-upload this stream because I'm recording it simultaneous to streaming it. I'll re-upload it and you'll be able to watch it back without any choppiness. I'm as close to the router as possible, the Starlink router. The Starlink is literally on the roof. Let's blame Elon Musk. Everyone's saying the stream is mad choppy now. Let me know if it improves. Oh, damn. So everyone is saying it now. Let me check it out here. So I'm checking out my stream on my smartphone. On my smartphone, it seems okay. So I don't know. Try refreshing your stream. If everyone tries refreshing their streams, are people hearing me? I don't know. Try refreshing your streams. I'm going to need to get like something to put on screen for these moments so that people see it and refresh their streams based upon what they see on the screen. Because on my phone, it seems to be okay when I'm playing the stream back here. It solved all the issues, so try refreshing it and let me know if it improves. Try refreshing the stream. Says he's a very small heavyweight who had a growth spurt. Well, a light middleweight who had a growth spurt ended up as a heavyweight. So that's me playing my stream on my smartphone through the mic, and it seems okay. So, yeah, try refreshing. Oh, damn. Kieran Malcolm says, I've refreshed mine several times and it's still really bad. Funny thing is, I was one of the ones who said their stream was okay earlier. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Because for some people, it's okay. I guess for most people, it's pretty bad now. But somehow on my phone, it's still okay. And for a couple other people, it's still okay. I don't know how that even works. Crazy Picnic says, I weigh 97 kilos currently. Would you advise me to make 91? I couldn't tell you without seeing you. Couldn't tell you. Gorguga says, Chris Bird turned pro around 168 and moved up to heavyweight a year later. That is true. That is true. JR says, we're back on. Crazy Picnic says, the stream is fine for me. I've got 3 bars, 5G. Okay, saying it's improving now. Yeah, these are the challenges of moving to a country that has diabolical internet. The best internet you can get here is Starlink. You know, Elon Musk's Starlink? That's the best you can get here. And Starlink is rubbish for live streaming, as I've come to discover. Downloading is fine on Starlink, but uploading, and that's what you need. And it's not just the upload speed with Starlink, it's the upload stability. It's terrible on Starlink. So it is what it is at the moment until I find a different solution. Same says, went from 17 to 19. I was 10 stone to 13 and a half. Similar body fat. Okay. Yeah, maybe he had a crazy growth spurt, but it's still a dramatic thing to be turning pro. And he would have been 18. I don't think he can turn pro at 17 in the United States. So he would have been 18 turning pro at 154. And now he must be nearly, I guess, 21. And he's, I guess, nearly 220 pounds. Big up HP. D Jack says it's fine here. KB says it's fine. All right. Hopefully we got past the hump. Mark Odell says, how do you refresh the stream? Well, if you're on a computer, just press refresh on the browser. If you're watching on a smart device, right, a tablet or a phone, then you need to close that window, go to my channel and reopen it again, or go to your feed, YouTube feed, and open it again. Yeah, or as Rich Franklin said there, click on another video, start watching that video, and then come back to this video. You can refresh it that way. That's right. Jazz says, Hatman, have you got an Ethernet cable that could improve things? Thank you for the suggestion. I will do that. I will get an Ethernet cable and plug it into the Starlink router and see if that helps. That's a good suggestion. Thank you. I will do that. I'll go to a hardware store in the next couple days and we'll try that out. Because like I said, I couldn't be any closer to the router. But yeah, we'll see if an Ethernet cable helps it. I'd like to show you guys some footage of where I'm living now, but once I put video on screen rather than still images, you're going to get all kind of crazy buffering. So I won't even do that. Another thing as well is that I'm using a VPN. When I switch my VPN off, I get much better upload speeds. The problem is I can't switch my VPN off and use my primary YouTube channel because I get these like verification things and it's just a massive rigmarole to go through verification because I'm in a foreign country. Do you know what I mean? So I use a VPN to make YouTube think I'm still in the UK. Otherwise, I get all kind of verification issues and it's messy. On my second channel, Hatman Boxing Live, maybe it's because I'm not monetized yet on that channel, I don't need to use a VPN. So I am going to do some streams on there, some test streams without my VPN on to see if it's a better experience. So I'll try over there as well. What are you guys up to today, by the way? Saturday afternoon? Is it Saturday afternoon? Yeah. I'm an hour ahead of the UK here, so yeah, it'll be like, no. Yeah. 1:25 UK time. Not that everyone is from the UK. There's some Americans in the chat as well. People from all over the place. What are you guys up to for the rest of the afternoon? Or the rest of the day? Out of curiosity. Yeah, Tony S says Moses versus Zion sounds like an epic biblical battle. Big up B Knuckles. Yeah, hit that like button. Ocean Blue says I refreshed my VPN and it sounds fine. Yeah, VPNs could cause issues on either side, but VPN could cause problems on my side too, because as I say, I've checked my upload speed with my VPN on and it's way lower than when my VPN is off. But unfortunately on this channel, in order to actually be able to access my own channel, I have to have a VPN on with the location set to the UK. Cal says Cape Verde qualified for the World Cup. Did they? Damn. But this kid, Damazion Van Hooter, in his box rec In fact, let me show you what I'm talking about here. I'm going to take a screenshot and show you what I'm talking about. This guy looks like a woman in his BoxRec profile picture. Take a screenshot and show you. South Africa qualified for the World Cup. What? They don't play football in South Africa. They play rugby and cricket and stuff. Damn, they qualified for the World Cup? Just shows how out of touch I am, right? I'm still shocked that Man United are no longer a top team in the Premiership. That's how old I am. All right, let me bring this in here. This is the heavyweight that people are talking about or were talking about earlier on in the stream. He looks like a woman in this picture. He literally looks like a female boxer. But to me, I wouldn't be surprised with the name and with the way he looks if he's Cape Verdean. Is this guy Cape Verdean? Anyone know? Kira Malcolm says my VPN may be the issue. Yeah, it may be, or at least part of the issue. We'll find out when I stream on the other channel without the VPN engaged. We'll find out. But it was a good suggestion. I've forgotten who it was now, about an Ethernet cable. I will get an Ethernet cable and see if that helps. All right, peeps. I'm going to shut this one down. Thank you to each and every one of you for locking into this stream. And being patient with the occasional glitch and issue here and there. Special shout out to those who donated via Super Chat. They were Matt Borgerson, Mr. Luca, Adam Folks, Grizz D, and 3D Pool Tile. All right? And big up everyone else who joined the conversation. Until next time, take care, be good. Catch you guys on the other side. I'm out.